All right, hi everybody. Doing some particle action today. Working on got a little experiment going, a little proof of concept. This is from a couple of years ago when I was playing around with the buoyancy particle stuff. Playing around with this idea of like using particles to gather information or serve like different purposes. Trying to do cool stuff with particles and we were talking in a Discord, like a dev Discord, yesterday, I think, about character ground interaction. Like, how do people handle, ground interaction? Like, are they are they trying to do real physical feet, or are they just trying to do local ball, or are they trying to do floating rigs, or like what are people trying to do? And I threw out this idea that I had rattled around in my head for a little while about using particles to try to come up with like all the different various potential foot locations and then limiting your ability to move based on what like stepping positions and forces from those positions are available to you. So this is what this is, right? So we've got this green ball which is trying to chase this red cube using it's a fairly simple PD controller type thing. However, the forces that the PD is allowed to use are limited to they're limited in that you have to be able to construct those forces using vectors that you can create using the center of mass of the object and a pair of like simulated feet, I guess, or positions for feet, right? So like if you've got a left foot and you've got a right foot, then the left foot vector going from the foot through the center of mass creates that's like a force you can use, and then from the right foot through the center of mass, that's like a force you can use, and then you can combine those forces in various amounts to try to make something useful for the PD to try to move in the direction that it wants the object to go. So I can try to visualize that by turning this on, which probably just looks like trash. But basically, it's visualizing those vectors in the green down here. You know what direction is it from the foot to the center of mass? The blue are normals. Don't worry about those. And then we've got this crazy triangle thing going on up here. Here, let me freeze this real quick. Um, that's not a really good triangle. Here, let me make a better triangle. Do 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 do. That still sucks. There we go. That's a good one. All right, yeah, this is a good one. So basically, what we've got going on. So we've got a foot over here, represented by this ball. We've got a foot over here, represented by this ball, and it's really just showing me which of the potential foot locations it happened to pick during this frame to try to generate this blue up vector that the PD wants to try to move the ball to the target, right? So this is basically just counteracting gravity and is in the straight up direction because that's kind of where we are right now. Now, um, the potential foot locations, I mean, it could use like directly underneath it or whatever, but it also has at its disposal like all these other things that it can use. And so in this case, it chose a fairly wide stance here, and that gives us the ability to use some right foot push and then some left foot push. So the right foot is like this whole black side of the triangle, and the left is like this whole black side of the triangle. And then we join those, and then we have this big triangle, and the whole triangle essentially represents the possible forces, the possible range of forces that this pairing of left and right foot could exert if we chose to use these foot positions. And so this is well inside the triangle, and so we don't even have to push all that hard. And we push a little right, we push a little left, and we get something that's very, very close, very, very close to the desired vector of what is probably essentially straight up that the PD wanted to try to move to the target. Right, and so it just does that over and over and over again at very high speed, and yeah, it just picks different foot locations and tries to come up with good vectors, and there you go. That's the limitation on the PD. Now, what's cool about that is we get this ground interaction like a floating rig, but instead of like a normal floating rig maybe has like a straight down raycast that it does or something like that. This one has like a whole set of things, and so it doesn't rely on the ground being directly under it or anything like that. Anywhere that it can come up with some combination that gives it a valid, set of foot locations is fine. So here we go. We can traverse this, and there's no problem, even though there's like no ground directly underneath the object. And we can like keep going, and then like step on these. Oh, we fell through, but here we're back on top, stepping on like this weird like mini platforms all over the place, and it just doesn't really care all that much, so long as it can come up with good locations before it falls, then it just steps wherever it needs to step to try to make something happen. So yeah, it's an interesting concept. I think it's pretty slick because it solves a lot of like issues that some of the other ground interaction solutions have. Like it addresses some things. Like for example, let's say I'm standing near the edge of this cliff. If I try to like sprint away from the edge of this cliff over to the right, normally you would just say, "Oh, I've got ground underneath me. Allow full locomotion," right? And you would just sprint away. But in this case, you don't really get full locomotion because you don't have good foot positions to the left over here because nothing's contacting. And as such, when I try to sprint away, it starts off really, really slow. And if I get too close to the edge, as you can see, maybe he doesn't get a good foot position at all and falls. So here we go, sprint to the right, and he's just really sluggish coming off that edge because he's got nowhere to push. And again, nowhere to push. And normally it's much more responsive than that. Like if I'm in the middle here, especially if I've got like a low stance and I can get some really good angles, then the response is normally pretty good. But when it's close to the edge here, not so much. And especially if you end up just past the edge, it can't get balanced at all. It's just going to keep falling because every time he starts to fall even a little bit, there's just nowhere to push off of, and he just keeps going. Okay, so all right, it's getting a little sluggish. Too many particles, maybe? I don't know. It's a lot of calculations for sure. So we can balance on this little platform. It is a little tricky to like get up there because it's real easy to fall off. All right, so stairs and stuff. Stairs are no problem as long as you're low. And you've got the ability to push in all the directions that you need to push. But if you start standing on your tippy toes, and then you lose that last step. As soon as you lose that last step, well, you're going to fall down the stairs, right? Like there's nothing to push on because you're too tall and you can't reach the next stair down. And so you fall. So you need to be low enough to climb the stairs, and then it's no problem. Same thing with slopes. As long as you can push, no big deal. And I don't have any like normal checks or anything like that going on right now. It's not doing anything with regard to like if I make this slope like super steep, it's not really going to care. As long as it can connect and get some purchase on it, then it basically gets like full push. However, it still needs to have the angle, and if it doesn't have the angle, then it can't hang on. So here we go. That's got a little bit, just enough angle where I can like hold this position. But if I get much steeper, then yeah, it's going to start to get pretty unstable. All right, so what else? All right, so let's do like a straddle. Let's go over here and do some straddle stuff. So, like I said, we already did the low stuff, but we could do like a full Gorilla Tag-esque climb of this. No big deal, because we can push on both sides. We've got plenty of angle, and yeah, everything's good. So if we take one of these walls out, as soon as we take this wall out, then obviously it's going to like have a problem. And it's trying to wall climb over there. There we go. Boom. So as long as he's got like counter pressure, so I can widen this up, for example, and as long as you've got good pressure on each side, then I can like push off. Well, that's a little far. Oof. Oof. There we go. Uh-oh, falling. Just got to work on my technique, I guess. All right, so yeah, pretty cool. I think it's a really neat concept. Here we've got a couple platforms. Let's make them pretty far apart. Get back to my target, and so this is a really big gap, and there's just no way I'm clearing that. We'll try this way. Oof. No, not even close. Not even remotely close to clearing that. But if I bring this wall forward, there we go. Let's see if I can like push off on the wall a little bit. Let me get a lot closer to it so I've got a really good angle. Can push like really vertically on that wall. All right, so might be able to get this. Oof, oof, oof. Oh, almost. So it's pretty close. All right, let's try it again. Oh, that sucked. Oh well. I tried. Oof. Oh yeah. Oh, I nailed it. All right. So I mean, you guys get the concept. Using particles as like a sensor array, and then evaluating, realistic forces for pushing off if you had feet. Is the concept. Obviously, this is like a simple proof of concept. Isn't really fleshed out or anything like that. But let me know what you guys think. I think it's pretty cool. Anyway, talk to you later. Bye.